afraid of the dark.
The laughing man in the mirror always greets me, but when you enter, he becomes angry Michael, age 4. My 3-year-old daughter saw her newborn brother for the first time. We stood by his crib, watching him sleep. Then she says, "Daddy, that's a monster. We should bury him." "Do you remember how we died, Dad?" My pregnant friend visited us when she was 8 months along. We sat in the living room, having tea. My 4-year-old son comes in and starts questioning her about the baby in her belly. She confirms it. He, with a very serious face, gets up from the couch and heads to the kitchen, saying, "Then we need to get him out. We'll need a knife." We were floored. My mom used to tell me a story I periodically told her as a child. I was 5 or 6, and I assured her that aliens had kidnapped her real son and replaced me his exact copy. Someday I'll return home. But she shouldn't be sad because her real son has a good life at the zoo. My 5-year-old son couldn't sleep. He kept saying there's someone under his bed. Then the dialogue. "You need to sleep. It's late. There's no one under your bed. He's behind you." No. My wife was getting our 2-year-old out of the crib in the morning. He stared at her belly, and she asked him what was wrong. He said, "Just looking at my little sister in your belly that day was only the 2nd week of her pregnancy. And yes, the ultrasound showed it was a girl." My daughter once told me there's a woman in the house who watches TV with her and sleeps in our attic above my daughter's room. She also said this woman doesn't like me and wants to eat my heart. Where the hell did she get all of this? She only watches Dinosaur Adventures and Sesame Street on TV. My 5-year-old nephew once drew a very scary black monster. When I approached to see, he looked at me and said, "He told me to draw this. He's coming for you, so you better hide." Dad, I love you so much. I wish I could cut off your head so I could always carry it with me and see you forever. My little sister once walked around the house strangely with a photo of our great-grandfather, crying and repeating, "Harvey, I miss you so much. Harvey died before I was born." Mom said our great-grandma often cried and repeated exactly that phrase after his death. I was tucking my son into bed, asking what was the most interesting thing today. He says the most interesting thing was playing with that uncle. "What uncle?" "This uncle," he said, pointing to the empty corner of his room. My 3-year-old daughter constantly says strange things. Last night as I was putting her to bed, she said, "Mom, there's a man with big yellow eyes looking at you." I looked around, nothing. I said it was her imagination, to which she laughed and replied, "No, he's just hiding," and a few minutes later added, "Oh no, Mom, you made him very angry. Now he says he'll come for you when you're asleep." I was very young when my grandmother died of cancer in the hospital. Naturally, they didn't tell me anything to spare my child's psyche. One of those difficult days, my aunt came to visit with my mom while my dad was in the hospital. Suddenly, I got distracted from my toys, looked at them and said, "There's only one grandma." They tried to assure me otherwise, saying I had 2 grandmas. Then the phone rings. It's my uncle. He told them that grandma passed away a couple of minutes ago. My grandpa died 10 years before I was born. I was 6 or 7 when my parents got divorced. The day before they told me, I sat in the kitchen drawing while my mom cooked dinner. Suddenly, I stopped drawing and said to her, "Don't worry, Mom. Grandpa says everything will be okay," and started drawing again. Mom said it was very eerie. My 3-year-old daughter used to scream at night and tell my wife and me that a woman visited her. After a few weeks, she stopped screaming, so we asked her if the woman had stopped coming. No, She just became kind. Her name is Sheila, and she sleeps with me in bed now 4 years later. Our younger daughter, who is 2, started screaming at night. She said she's scared of Sheila. 3 more years passed. We moved to a new house. On the first night in the new home, our 2.5-year-old son asked, "Where will Sheila sleep now?" I once asked my mom in childhood what it's like to be dead. She said she didn't know. But I assured her not to worry. I'll find out when I'm 21. The guy on the forum never wrote back about how old he is now. My brother's son, who was 4 at the time, once came up to me and said, "The day I become a father, you will die." He's 27 now, unmarried, no kids, so I'm safe. When I was little, Mr. Randall used to come into my room occasionally. He'd chat with me, tell me about World War II. He stopped coming when I turned 9. Recently, my 5-year-old son told me, "Mr. Randall says you can't see him anymore. But don't worry, I'm fine." I went to the cemetery with my son to visit his grandfather. As we passed by the grave of a little boy, he turned to me and said, "Mom, why is that kid crying? Why doesn't his mom calm him down? I didn't see anyone there." My daughter used to talk in her sleep a lot. Most of the time it was profanity in Spanish. The strangest thing was she never knew Spanish, and when she woke up, she couldn't remember a word. When I was a child, I often told my parents that they weren't my real parents and that my real ones split up on a train. At first they found it amusing, but then they made me promise not to repeat it. When I was visiting a friend, we stayed up late. Her 4-year-old daughter came into the kitchen and said, "Mom, when I grow up, I died in an accident. Can I have a drink?" The friend silently poured her some milk and sent her to bed. Later she cried and begged us never to talk about it. I was brushing my son's teeth before bed. Suddenly he looked in the mirror and asked, "Dad, why does that man have a knife?" It was the fastest 180-degree turn in my life. And no, there was no one there. My little sister used to talk to herself a lot when she was around 4. When my dad asked her who she was talking to, she said she was talking to a little boy and described him. Later on, while we were reading the history of our town as a family, she suddenly saw a photo of a family on a page and exclaimed, "Oh, that's the boy. I know him. We used to play together." On the next page was a photo of our house. That family died in it.